Welcome to the Sober Unicorn. We are a gay-hosted, all-inclusive podcast about sobriety and addiction recovery for the LGBT plus community and all of our allies. I am your host, Holden, and thank you for joining us today. Hey, it's Holden, and I am an alcoholic. I hope everybody's doing well today. Today, I am being joined by Kim. Hey, Kim.
Hi, Holden. How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. My name is Kim, and I am an alcoholic.
Good. Well, why don't you tell everybody your age, sobriety date, and what your drug of choice was?
I am 57. My sobriety date is December 4th of 2021, and my drug of choice was beer and gambling.
Okay. All right. Well, we haven't had a gambler on the show, so I'm so excited to have you. So Kim and I actually go way back. It's crazy. Out of all Kim, I believe, is my 16th guest here on the Sober Unicorn, and she is the only one so far that knew me when I was drinking and active in my addiction. And so it's crazy that we kind of lost touch, and just recently we kind of got back in contact a few weeks ago, and we're both in the program, we're both in the 12 step, and it's just so crazy how kind of God brings us back together. So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
yeah, so well, Kim, so why don't you tell everybody kind of what led up to you kind of seeking help and finally like needing to enter into a program to get sober?
Well, as you said, Holden, you and I met in Fort Worth, and I moved from Fort Worth in October of 19, I think, and moved to Florida. And I didn't realize until you and I had visited a little bit about how bad my addiction was, even in Fort Worth. I knew I drank a lot, but when I got to Florida, it only escalated the drinking, and then gambling's legal here. So that just really caused a problem. But I moved here and I drank and drank and drank and drank and would gamble away all my paycheck and never pay my girlfriend rent for the condo that she had bought and let me live in. And so on July 3rd of last year, she confronted me and said, you've turned into a drunk. You're irresponsible. You don't pay your bills. This isn't right. You're taking advantage of me. And she was dying with lung cancer. And so I felt not even an inch high. I couldn't have been sorrier. So I left her home that day and just I decided you really have a problem. You have to go to AA or to a 12-step program. And so I walked into a 12-step program the very next day.
And it's crazy that many times when those kind of things happen in our lives, we tend to go right back to drinking. And it's kind of crazy that when you were confronted and she kind of forced yourself to look at yourself in the mirror, that actually took you into the program rather than straight back to the beer.
Yeah. I did fall off the wagon in November, and I realized that, from July to November, I was doing it for her. Uh, I wanted to make her proud. I wanted her, she passed in August, and I wanted her to know when she passed that I was sober and that I was going to be okay. And then I fell off and in November, and but this time it's for me. It's still for her, but it's for me. I have to stay sober. I need to be sober because I am an alcoholic.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, as we said, kind of like you had that relapse. So take us to, of course, you had 4 months sober, which is actually a pretty long time. And most relapses occur in the first 90 days of sobriety. So what made you relapse, and what was your ideas kind of right before you put the drink back to your mouth?
So I was working on step 4, and I came to a place that I could not go any further. I was involved in a relationship with another woman, and when I was 16, and for all practical purposes, it was a gay relationship. It never, I mean, it was physical, but but she was a preacher's wife, and I, for years, thought I would try to it was okay. She would not do anything wrong. And but anyway, I carried that. I never told anybody all the details of it, and I've carried that shame with me for 36 years. And I to the place where I knew I was either going to have to confess that because of all the guilt and shame, or I was going to have to walk away from AA. And so on December 4th, I was able to tell everything to my sponsor, everything that had happened, everything I was ashamed of, felt guilty for. And it was a miraculous delivery on that day.
Yeah, I know that step four kind of brings a lot of truth to our past and what built up to us drinking and diving so far into addiction that we did, because there's a lot of things in our past that we ourselves kind of want to forget. Um, and we think that that step four brings up so much emotion, but even though that emotion can be hard to deal with, going into steps 5 through 7, it's a deliverance from those emotions. Like, we don't want to close the past, but we do want to understand that we can learn from our past, and those are just experiences that we had. We can learn to cope with them and learn to move forward and be happy. So now that you've essentially kind of gone through your step four, um, are you able to look back on your past and see, um, kind of see how it's helping you today, and be like, that it's not a hindrance to you anymore, that it's just actually helpful of becoming who you are as a person?
For the first time in 56 years, I actually let down the walls of a secret that I had carried for years. And so by doing that, it freed me to be able to talk about. I mean, as an alcoholic, I've never been able to talk about my feelings because most of the time I don't know what my feelings are. And that's why I drank. I drank to drown the feelings. But now, getting sober, you feel the feelings, and our secrets make us sick. You know, so once we start telling those secrets to another human being, uh, it makes all the difference in the world. You know,
It does. I mean, and as you just said, secrets make you sick. And there was, I mean, for myself as well, there was a secret that I held deep down for the past, I think it was 17 years, that I kept it down. And I even almost held that from my sponsor. And I think it was shortly after we did our step five that I knew that I couldn't consciously continue unless I let that secret out. And so
yes.
I called my sponsor and I was like, "Hey, I hid something from you." And he's like, "Oh shit. Well, what is it?" So, and I fear judgment, and laying that out, he's like, "Okay. Like, are you sorry that you did it?" Yes. He's like, "Have you prayed about it?" I'm like, "Yes." So the thing is, that's what I realized. I think at that moment is when I realized these rooms are not full of judgment.
No.
They're
In
full
fact,
of compassion.
I was just in a meeting, as Bill sees it, and we were talking about honesty. And I had shared about having been in a psych ward and due to a suicide attempt. And after I shared it, I was like, "That's a little personal," but you've got to let the walls down. You've got to get real because like another lady shared, she's known 5 people that in the program that were sober that committed suicide. So we can't just keep dancing around it and pretending that it's okay. So we drink a little too much. No, and it's the alcoholic or the alcohol is just a symptom of our sickness, you know. And so I'm just so grateful to have known that and to be given a second chance at life. I mean, for all practical purposes, my life was over at the rate I was going. It was just, I would be homeless. So I am just so blessed to have a second chance.
Yeah, I know that when, I mean, I was active in my addiction as well, but when we used to hang out, it was, I would see how you drank, and I was like, "Girl, she got to get it together." Because what I was more scared of at that time was even though you lived so close to the bar that we were at, you chose to drive and you were driving yourself home. And that was one of my biggest worries was who are you going to hurt as well as yourself if you get into a car accident. But
Yeah.
I was even drinking and I was driving you home. So I mean, it was the blind leading the blind.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because we alcoholics like to stick together because in our insanity, nobody understands us but the next insane person.
Yes, and that's for damn sure. And I think that's
Mhm.
maybe why you and I connected. I want to give everybody a little backstory, just a slight touch on it. Kim and I, when we first met, was through a mutual friend, and I absolutely hated Kim. Um, we didn't really see eye to eye because I'm this very over the top individual that really has no boundaries with topic of discussion. And Kim was very conservative in her ways. She didn't really talk about sex. She never really talked about just anything crazy. So, of course, these two kind of polar opposite personalities, when trying to be friends and kind of being forced to be friends because of the mutual friend that
Yeah.
we had, we kind of battled. And it took, I would say, a good like 2 months. And
Yes.
finally, some walls got broken down and some understanding finally happened. And Kim and I developed actually a very strong friendship that even after things fell out between Kim, that individual, which happens in life, Kim and I developed this really weird, not weird friendship, but just a friendship. And I think looking back on it, it was a friendship because I understood where she was at because I was the same way with my drinking. And I was wanting to be there as a friend and as a supporter because I knew exactly why she was drinking, exactly why she was pushing bills back to be able to drink. Because I started doing the same thing. And I think it is, I had a credit card because I mean, I put myself like $12,000 in debt, in credit card debt, just from the drinking.
I would go out and drink at the bar, and I didn't realize at the time. You've told me since that it would decline my credit card, and you guys would have to bail me out. Well, when I got here to Florida, I would start drinking. I'd get a bucket of beer and I'd down 5 beers and a White Claw or two, and I'd keep going back to the ATM for $100, $100, $100, and put it in that slot machine and just keep drinking. And you know, so the next morning I would wake up. Thank God I never got in a wreck because you're right. I could have very easily killed somebody. But I would wake up the next morning and see that I had zero money in the bank account after I'd just been paid the day before. I was hungover. I had drunk called, I can't tell you how many people. And it was just, what is the word? Unmanageable, the
Mm.
insanity. I mean, just the insanity of it all. But I didn't know, Holden, that I had a drinking problem when I was in Fort Worth. I really didn't.
I mean, I knew you did, but but it like
Yeah.
but like we know I mean, but at that time I didn't know I had a drinking problem. I was like, look at this girl over here being all drunk on Michelob Ultras. And it it took a long time for me to look at myself. It took a vacation situation for me to ruin it entirely from drinking, for me to spend over $275 in one night at a bar, um, just strictly just shots after shots. And so, no matter, like you said, your friend brought it to your attention, no matter how many times family, friends are like, hey, do you think you need to slow down? You're drinking quite a bit. You're going to the bar 7 nights a week. We're like, no, this is normal because we're social. We're social drinkers. Um, it it finally takes ourselves to look in the mirror, and I think that's why for you the first time didn't stick around because you were doing it for somebody else. um
Yeah.
when your
Yeah.
friend looked at you and was kind of disappointed, it seemed that in a way maybe you got sober to prove a point to her, saying, I can do this, I don't have a problem.
Well, yeah, I think that could have been part of it, but I just because I had come down here to be a support to her. I mean, here she is dying of cancer, and I had turned out to be a complete failure. I mean, I just had showed my ass. And you were talking about how other people notice that we have a drinking problem long before we do. In November, I got here in October, and in November, my brother and sister-in-law came to visit, and I had started drinking and almost fell into the fire pit. I was so drunk, and he took me down to the lake the next day, and he said, my mother had passed, and that was very, very hard for me. And he said, I know you miss mom and all that, but he said, you're really going to have to get a hold of your drinking. But I said, and of course, we promised him, well, I will, it's not a problem. And also, you were talking about how I couldn't cover my drinking debt. Well, I couldn't do it here either. So in the office that I worked, I was borrowing money from everybody because I had a plan. I drank every day after work, and I had to have money to cover that. But when I'd go out and drink and gamble and get so drunk I would black out, you know, I had to figure out how am I going to cover my drinking for the next 2 weeks. So we're talking, payday loans. We're talking, Amscot, which is a big thing down here. You can go in and write a check and get money for it. I mean, it's just insanity. It is total insanity. And it's like you're powerless to stop it. I mean, I when I would wake up hungover and broke and and regretful, it would be, I so want to stop this cycle. But I was so powerless to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that I do believe that's the insanity that it talks about. And you were speaking earlier of our mutual friend, and I feel such a great sadness at the loss of that friendship. Uh, Unfortunately, it was we were drinking, and things get out of hand, feelings get hurt, things are said that you regret, and you know I am terribly, terribly, deeply sorry for having hurt her, because I feel like she's been hurt enough. You know, we've all been hurt enough. That's why we drink. That's why we do the things that we do. And I hate, and uh, I couldn't be sorrier for having hurt her.
Yeah, and I think, like, as we see in our step forward, there are so many people that we have hurt in our addiction, whether it's emotional, financial, whether it's just by saying something that we regret, just to take a dig at that individual. Um, and most of the time, every time we did that, it was because they questioned our drinking or questioned our issues.
Yes.
They brought that shit to light.
Yes.
And um and then the thing is too is like once we feel that we're now hurt, um because that individual brought that shit to us, when we drink the next time, more text messages fly, more work hard things get said. And so it's just kind of, as you said, the cycle where it's just this revolving door of you start feeling hurt, so you get drunk, and then you do stupid shit to try to hurt them back. And it's no two wrongs make a right.
Right. Right. And I think it's pride. I think my pride got hurt, and I retaliated. And I don't know, I can't speak for every alcoholic, but I'm very defiant. Well, you're going to say that about me. Well, I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and take that, you know, and just because nobody's going to get anything over on me, and you have to lose that attitude, because, that's not the way of the program. It's just
Mhm.
not, it's serving others. It's laying down, in my opinion, it's laying yourself down, not to be a doormat, but just to be a servant to other people, you know?
So talking about friendship, I don't keep meaning to bring the friend up that you moved to Florida for. So, but of course she passed, like you said, a month into your sobriety, which I'm so happy that she was able to see 30 days of your sobriety. In your prayer life, have you, for one, thanked her for essentially humbling you down, and then in prayer asked for her forgiveness of the person you had become?
I have to think about that, Holden. I was so humbled, but for lack of a better word, from having her confront me because she loved me in a like nobody else ever had. It was completely unconditional. She she did for me, she took care of me. She just was the most amazing person you would ever meet. And I believe before she died, I was able to apologize to her and I made things right before she passed. She actually came to the 49ers the night I received my 30-day chip
Hell yeah.
for being sober. And it was the last time she was able to leave the house. But she was so proud. And I'll have that forever.
And that's the thing you have to understand too, especially when people are sick, like actual physically sick, like she was with cancer. Maybe that's what she was holding on for. So
Maybe.
she, now that she saw your success and saw that you were sorry and your improvement on life, she finally was like, okay, I can go now. Because through the midst of your addiction, she just, as you said, you moved there to help her, and it was kind of her helping you. And so
Absolutely.
maybe
Absolutely.
maybe it took that you her that proudness from her to you, seeing you receive that chip, being sober, turning your life around to say, I can let Kim live now, and I can go.
Yeah, I they called me about 2 o'clock, and I was one of three people that were with her when she passed away. And I got there about 2 o'clock, and I just leaned down to her and whispered, "I'm okay. I'm gonna be fine. It's okay for you to go." And she passed within about 3 hours.
Yeah,
So,
and she sees it. I mean,
but
even with the unfortunate relapse, I mean,
yeah,
she's looking down, and I think even with the relapse, she would be incredibly proud of where you are now.
well,
Because you a bad bitch.
uh, one other thing I wanted to share with you is, you know, we can talk about all the bad things and how crazy and insane our lives were. And one thing about it is, I feel so free now. It's like working the steps, you know, not having to, being able to show my feelings. You know, I'm not there yet, but it's, being able to try to talk about my feelings because as an alcoholic, that's really why I drank because I couldn't deal with them and I certainly couldn't talk about them. So in learning to talk about my feelings, it really has freed me. When I did that step 4 about the woman who I had been involved with as a teenager, I felt like I had lost 75 pounds when I walked away. I mean, it was incredible. And what a change it's made in my life. It's like the ball and chain has been broken. And it's just I mean, we go to the 12-step programs and stuff to try to get off of alcohol. And then we realize that alcohol was really not our problem. It was a symptom.
Yes, that
So,
we are our own problem. And that's, I mean, that was going to lead into my next question is, now that you're sober, kind of how has your life changed? How has your relationships with people changed?
Holden, I'm so glad you asked that. Uh, I had a New Year's Eve gathering here at my condo, and I was just sitting there and I looked around and I thought, there is not one person here tonight that I knew this time last year. It's totally changed. Unfortunately, sometimes the people that you drink with don't really want to be with you after you quit drinking. And so I have a whole totally different set of friends that I find are precious, precious people that they add so much to your life and they're true. They're true friends. They know you about your dirty laundry, but they love you anyway. Uh, I work, I go to meetings, and they have social things, but I seem busier now than I did when I drank. And I don't know how I had all that time that I wasted drinking.
Yes, that is for sure. I think the same thing. I'm so busy nowadays. I was like, how the hell did I have time to sit at a bar 5 nights a week and drink till 2 in the morning? But I mean, you are so right. I mean, the friendships that are built within the group and in sobriety, you find that they are friends that are kind of lifetime. They're not friendships of
Yes,
convenience. They're not, the thing is, no
absolutely.
matter whether you relapse, fall down, get up, make a stupid decision, the people, all they want to see is for you to do better. And they will be there to pick you up and be there at your bad times and at your good times.
You know what I think, Holden, is that it's like our servicemen and women who are in the foxholes together, in fear for their lives. Uh, and it bonds them for life. Well, he's my brother. I can't tell you how many soldiers I've heard say, he's my brother, no man left behind. And that to me is what the program is all about. It's we're in the foxholes together. It is a life or death situation. And these folks are willing to get in that foxhole with you and fight the enemy and help you combat, the demons.
So we touch on the drinking. Of course, you're now what 3, 4, 5 months sober.
Yeah,
I don't want to
about.
do the math in my head. I'm not very good at that. But how's the gambling?
I don't gamble. I don't. In fact, at one particular evening, someone was passing out lottery tickets, and I just simply slid mine over to the next person because it's like I won't even do that. Uh, if I drink, it's all bets are off. I'm going to be gambling.
Well, I mean,
You know.
isn't it if you drink, all bets are on the table because you are gambling?
I'm sorry.
I said if you are drinking, all bets are
Oh
actually
yes,
on
yes,
because. But
yes. That's true. That's true.
it's
So,
so good
but
to see you sober with a smile on your face, and because I know in the past of our drinking, we were not happy people. We I there were so many times that I broke down with you, you broke down with me over emotions and stuff, and it's kind of like how we couldn't help each other because we couldn't help ourselves. And now it's so good to see you sober, smiling with just nothing but happiness and joy and hope for the future.
And Holden, I wanted to tell you how much I love you and how much I've grown to love you. I know there were so many times that I was so drunk that I couldn't dress myself, undress myself, go to the bathroom, and how you nursed me through all of that. And I want to thank you so much. And I can't tell you how excited and what a privilege it is to have been asked to be a guest on your show.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, this isn't my show. This is the show for the people. But I do appreciate it. I mean, like I said, I mean, like the alcohol was a symptom, and we were both a hot mess then. And I just did. I mean, I couldn't help you stop drinking because I couldn't help myself from stopping drinking at that time, and so I just did what I could do as a friend. I mean, so
Yes.
I made sure your dog got walked, you got in bed, your CPAP machine was on, and that you were taken care of and you were ready for the next day, even though you were probably waking up hungover as hell.
Yeah, I can guarantee you that. So,
So,
but
was there anything else that you haven't said that you do want to share with everybody?
one thing I feel like the program has helped me with is you had mentioned how we didn't get along at all when we first met, and if I can just be honest with you, I was homophobic, and the reason being is because of that relationship that I had been in. I thought there was a chance I might be gay, and that was something I could not even entertain. I couldn't be. And I ran from that because that was the magnitude of that secret is, I can't be gay. I'm an ultra conservative Texan, we're not gay, you know, and 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 I want to apologize for that. But now that I've gotten to Florida and God has miraculously and graciously and mercifully let me tell that awful, awful secret and all of the things that were involved in that, now I'm okay. You know, if I am gay, it's okay. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm bisexual, it's okay. You know, I'm okay. And so are you. And, you know, I have more gay friends now than I've ever had in my life. And it's wonderful. I just love them. They're no different than you or me. They're all, you know, but it just, and you know, I hope you don't have to edit all that out, but I somehow just wanted to convey that, you know, how judgmental and self-righteous I was, and how God in his mercy has delivered me from that.
And I think it's so important to actually say that because I never knew why you didn't like me. And the thing is, it just kind of shows how things from our past creep up and allow us to be these judgmental people against others, not because they're a bad person, not because of anything other than the fact of we couldn't handle our own bullshit.
Yeah.
And it took you handling your own bullshit from your past to understand why you passed that judgment. And the thing is, it takes a lot of strength and swallowing of pride to admit that to somebody. So, I mean,
Well,
I'm tearing up here because it means a lot to me that you have been able to understand why
yes,
maybe you were so unhappy and that you allowed things from your past to possibly block a good friendship,
yes,
and that
yes,
now you're comfortable. The thing is, I mean, you can be religious or spiritual, conservative, and be gay. I'm not saying that you are gay, but I mean, that time will tell with you.
you know, but if I am, it's okay,
Yes, exactly. And at the end of the day,
you
we're
know.
all in God's eyes made the way we're supposed to be made, whether it's
Amen.
straight, gay, or otherwise.
Mhm.
Homophobia is a choice. Gay is not. Well, I don't think it is, um,
Yeah.
but I'm so happy that you came to that. So again, Kim, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it so much.
Well, Holden, always know that I love you and I'm here for you anytime, day or night. And please know that.
You as well, girl. Now that we got each other's numbers again, call me, text me, no matter where you are, no matter how far.
Uh,
No.
that's right, baby. You
All
just
right.
call my name, baby.
Thank you again for listening to today's episode. Hit that follow button to be notified about new episodes every week. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Instagram at The Sober Unicorn Podcast or on our website at thesoberunicornpodcast.com. There you will find our episodes as well as our very own sober owned shop featuring products from small businesses that are sober owned. And remember everyone, don't be normal, be a unicorn, but better yet, be a sober unicorn.